My brother never went to college. They didn't tell me what to do, what not to do. They were to go to Calcutta, make money, send money home because there were a lot of younger kids to feed. And so that's how we survived. My father had a small shop. And so they did not know about IITs. These were the most famous institutes in India. My brother did not know anything about it. I did not know anything about it. But another accident happens. And this accident is interesting. It's difficult to explain, but I'll tell you what it is. My town has schools which are high school and college. High school is 10th grade, higher secondary is 11th grade. And I was in the higher secondary, but they only offered commerce. So I wanted to go to science and math, so I went to a high school. In my 8th grade, I moved to high school, 9th and 10th. But by 10th grade, the India government decided no more high school. And so what do I do by 11th grade? And higher secondary is not possible anymore. So some colleges decided to offer 11th grade to people like me. And that was a blessing in disguise. But I went to one of the best colleges. And I was taught by professors, PhDs, all kinds of people. Whereas if you go to higher secondary, and there, one day I was lying in my cot outside my room, and a third-year guy in a college from my hometown brings me a cyclostyle. You know what a cyclostyle paper is? The old Xerox. He said, fill this form and send it off. That form is the entrance examination of IIT. I did not know until then that there is an IIT. I filled it out, I send it, and they say, come for exam, for the entrance exam in Jaipur. And so I went there, and that story it continues, and eventually I went to IIT. So it's again an accident which brought me there. I do want to say something about that accident as well. One of my professors was a famous physics professor, and there was a college-wide exam of math. So I'm not even in college yet, I'm in the pre-university. So I also took part in this. And later on the guy said to me, the physics guy, he said that if you didn't answer one question, you would have won the contest. The one question I answered was a stupid thing because it was a trigonometry question, and I had not learned trigonometry yet. But I answered it anyway, and the wrong answer gave negative marks. So if I hadn't answered that, so I got a consolation prize. And this is the professor who wanted me. He said there's a unified field theory, a lot of exciting things going on in physics. You should go in physics. I said my brother thinks physics has no job, go to engineering. So I went to engineering, and I went to IIT. Many years later, I go to UBC just to visit, and Professor Bhargava, the physics guy, was visiting professor there. So I said in the night, I went there, we had some glass of wine in his basement apartment, and then after a glass or two of wine, this physics professor who wanted me to go to physics, he says, Suresh, where can I do an MBA? You see how the stories happen sometimes? So that's my thing about IIT. I can say more things about it, but I will stop this part. Then I will say a little bit more about the other part, which explains a number of things that Ting said. So why I am doing things in finance, marketing, economics, all of that. So each one of them has a story, and I plan to write each one of these stories as to why I went to this field. So let me go into finance first. Are we doing good with time? Okay. So I was a Carnegie Mellon PhD student, and they wanted me to teach a course in finance as a PhD student to a bunch of girls who were students in Margaret Morrison Girls College attached to Carnegie Mellon University. Margaret Morrison College. So I went to these 20 girls sitting there, and I said, the course was household finance. I told them, household finance, I have to find a book. But do you want household finance? These girls said, no, we want finance. So I do an introductory finance, a book by Weston Brigham, famous book in that time. So I taught them introductory finance. That's how I learned a little bit of finance. But then, two things happened. One is, somebody wrote a paper on finance using control theory and published in a journal called, some good journal. And I read this paper, the paper was wrong. So I not only corrected the paper, in order to correct, I had to learn Miller-Modigliani theory, which is a theory in finance. And when I learned Miller-Modigliani theory, I found some stuff in Miller-Modigliani that I also had to fix. So the first story, I fixed the paper, and I sent to Journal of Financial Quantitative Analysis, one of the UTD 24 journals. This was 1970s. So I sent the paper. I wrote to them, please send it to somebody other than, at least somebody other than the authors of the paper that I'm extending. It turns out that they didn't. They sent it to one of the authors who was a professor at UCLA, and in those days you got reviews by paper. And this paper had a watermark which said UCLA. So I know the name. It's not hidden. It's a paper by Krauss and Lee, and it was a very famous paper there, but it was so they rejected the paper. So I wrote back saying, whoever reviewed the paper, I cannot say I know the guy. So I said, whoever rejected the paper has no clue about control theory. Please, can you send to somebody who knows about control theory? And they did. And the paper was hereby accepted. And then they said, revise the paper based on previous and this reviews. I said, no way. I will revise the paper. The previous title was Optimal Control of Krauss and Lee Model Extensions. The next title was Corrections and Extensions. I published that paper in JF2A, and I learned Miller-Modigliani, and I did a stochastic extension of Miller-Modigliani. That is a fairly high-level math kind of stuff with martingale theories and continuous time and stuff like that. So I wrote that. I'm planning to write a book on. I wrote about 5-6 papers on that topic, and one day you'll see a book about it. And in 1978, I went to Carnegie Mellon as a visiting professor.
So before that, you got your MBA. You got an MBA before Carnegie.
MBA was in Washington State University.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it was a good thing because MBA, I should say something about it. That's what B2 says. So B2 is a short form of Sanyukta. She doesn't know this story, but I will tell you.
I know all the stories. No.
Don't speak until you.
My patience is like of a saint.
Okay. No, you until the full story. So the story is that I went to, after IIT, I went to IIM, Indian Institute of Management, Kolkata. I was one of the highest scoring guys.
By the way,
So
there's many IITs, so which...
now there are many, there were only 5
okay.
in my time.
Okay.
But anyway, so IIM Kolkata. I go to IIM Kolkata. I have a guy who was also there. I go there because my brother and family doesn't live too far from there. And I find that every course they're teaching I already know. Because they were taking BSc and BE engineering people and they did not know any statistics or something. So I said, I'm wasting my time. So I applied to US. I left after 1 year, after 1 month I left IIM, which is the top, great institute of management, you know that. So I applied and I got a free tuition in Washington State. Because there was no money to go anywhere. So I said, okay, I accept this, and now we have to find out the ticket. So my family, some member gave me this much, somebody gave me this. I took a loan from some, and she knows Menabai, my sister, sold some jewelry because all of this we talked about. So we had the ticket and some money, and I went there. I went to Washington State. It was my first flight ever. And the flight went from Calcutta to Bangkok. I stayed Bangkok one night. I go to this town, the reclining Buddha, all of this. The next day I fly. And then from there I go to Haneda Airport. There they put me in a hotel in the airport, near the airport. I